That's the end. We're going to try to move on to the next person to get you out of here. We talked a little bit about the wall earlier. The administration has asked for $46.5 billion for the wall. The border on the Mexican border is about 1,950 miles. We've fenced or walled about 700 of it. That leaves about 1,200 miles. There's 200 or 300 miles of it that probably never going to have a fence on. It's mountainous or just impossible to fence or wall. So I would say realistically, you got under 1,000. But let's just say there's 1,000. You really want to wall on 1,000. CBP says it's 6.5 million per mile. Your response today was 12 million per mile. That means $12 billion for 1,000 miles. We're off here by a factor of 3 or 4 with 46 billion. Where's the rest of the 46 billion? The administration says they want 46 billion for a wall. You could pave all of it and still have, 34 billion left over. What's the 34 billion going for?
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got to talk about something that should have every taxpayer in this country fuming. A jaw, dropping $46.05 billion border wall proposal that just doesn't pass the smell test. I'm talking about the confrontation that went down between Senator Rand Paul and DS Secretary Kristi Noem, and folks, it was one of the most brutally honest moments we've seen in a government hearing in a long time. Let me paint the picture. We've got a 1,950-mile border with Mexico. About 700 miles of it is already walled or fenced. But guess what? There are about 200, 300 miles that can't realistically ever be fenced. We're talking mountains, wilderness, and terrain so rough, even a wall wouldn't dare touch it. So we're left with maybe
1,000 miles where you could logically build a wall. Now, here's where it gets insane.
The average cost of building 1 mile of border wall, according to CB, about $6.05 million. Secretary Noem says it's gone up to $12 million a mile. Fine. Let's take the higher number just for fun. Multiply that by 1,000 miles and you get $12 billion. That's still not even a third of what they're asking for. So where the hell is the rest of the money going? What are we funding here? A platinum-plated fortress? A laser security grid from a Bond movie? Or maybe just some more million-dollar contracts to well-connected firms that know how to milk the system. And that's exactly the point Senator Paul drove home. He didn't just criticize the numbers. He exposed the absurdity of throwing around $30 billion with no accountability. I mean, you could pave the entire border twice over and still have billions left to burn. This isn't budgeting. This is grift dressed up as national security. Let me be clear. This isn't even about whether you support the wall or not. This is about transparency, integrity, and basic math. If they can't explain where the money is going, then we're not funding border protection. We're funding corruption. We're funding sweetheart deals, inflated contracts, and a bureaucratic boondoggle that's become a money pit for anyone with the right political connection. And here's what really gets me. While regular people are out here struggling with housing costs, groceries, medical bills, Washington is just casually tossing $30 billion into a dark abyss and calling it essential. Essential for who? The contractors, the consultants, the lobbyists. So if you're tired of being told there's no money for healthcare or education or infrastructure, while DS casually asks for $46 billion with a straight face, you're not crazy. You're paying attention, and that's what they don't want. Because the more you question, the more their house of cards starts to wobble. Bottom line, we deserve better. If you're going to take our money, we demand receipts. Every last one of them.
Yes, Senator, thank you for the question. We do have 702 miles of wall today. 598 of that are steel. The rest of that is temporary that's in place. Since the president's been in office, over 70 miles has been erected. We have 11 contracts that have gone out and allocated. We also have 5 more that are pending. Based on the dollars that have been requested, it's not just the infrastructure that would be built, that would be the actual wall construction. It would be also surveillance equipment.
The number's way off. 1,000. You could do 1,000 miles for $12 billion. You're asking for $46 billion. So I'm one who's not impressed and would have to see more detail as to where the rest of the money goes. We can't just throw $30 billion out there and say things cost a lot.
I agree. We'll get you the specifics on that.
With regard to the drones and all the preparatory work that DHS does and the government does for the NFL and for FIFA, does the NFL pay DHS for the work you do?
So, the Secretary Kristi Noem sat in front of Congress and tried to justify a jaw, dropping $46, 5 cents billion funding request for the border wall. And I'll give her this. She tried to sound reasonable. She explained that we've got 702 miles of wall up, most of it steel, some temporary. Okay, cool. She said they've built another 70 miles under the current administration. They've signed 11 contracts and have 5 more pending. Sounds like action, right? But here's where it all falls apart. Even with all that, the math doesn't make sense. Let's do it together. If you're building 1,000 more miles and each mile costs around $12 million, then you're looking at about $12 billion total. So why are they asking for nearly $46 billion? That's not a rounding error, people. That's $34 billion of mystery meat in the budget stew. And even Secretary Noem couldn't explain it. She admitted the gap is real. She literally said, "We can't just wave our hands and say things are expensive." Well, guess what? That's exactly what they've been doing. And the worst part, this isn't some rare exception. This is how bloated and vague federal spending has become, especially when it's wrapped in buzzwords like national security or border protection. They know if they throw the word security or border protection on it, too many Americans will stop asking questions. But Senator Rand Paul wasn't having it. He pressed her, and to her credit, she didn't dodge. She said she'd get the specifics. But let's be honest, we've heard that promise before. We'll get you the numbers. We'll circle back. Meanwhile, billions disappear into government black holes faster than we can count. And just when you think it couldn't get more infuriating, Paul hit her with this. Is this being paid by the NFL or FIFA for the massive security support it provides during major sporting events? The answer? Nope, not to her knowledge. And that should set off every alarm bell in your head. Let me get this straight. The NFL, a league raking in billions annually, and FIFA, arguably one of the most profitable international sports entities in the world, are getting free security from the U.S. government, paid for by you, the taxpayer. You know, the same taxpayer who probably can't afford a Super Bowl ticket, let alone a private suite at a World Cup final. This is the textbook definition of corporate welfare. It's privatized profit, socialized risk. The billionaires make their money, the fans pay insane ticket prices, and we cover their security tab. What kind of broken system is that? So here's the takeaway. This isn't just about the wall. This is about how your money is being used and abused. It's about a government that throws around billion-dollar figures with zero accountability. It's about wealthy private corporations using public resources for free while the middle class is told to tighten the belt. If you're sick of being gaslit into thinking there's no money for healthcare, housing, or infrastructure, but there's always a blank check for vague national security or billionaire sports leagues, you're not alone. This is why oversight matters. This is why people need to ask questions, even the uncomfortable ones, because as long as we stay quiet, they'll keep writing themselves billion-dollar checks and hoping we never do the math.
I mean, here's my point. The NFL makes billions of dollars. We're $2 trillion in the hole. I don't care if government shares their technology and government helps out the World Cup. They ought to pay.
Yeah.
We're paying hundreds of dollars for tickets. I mean, thousands of dollars for the NFL, for Super Bowl and things. They're also paying for FIFA. And so these people ought to pay. And so I'm one holding up these authorizations, and I'll let them go forward. But I want people to pay. I mean, it's ridiculous that the average taxpayer who could never afford to go to an NFL Super Bowl has got to pay for their security. Should the government help? If we have technology they don't? Perhaps. But they ought to pay. So NFL, FIFA, I think they all ought to pay. And we'll be insisting on trying to put language in that. If you're a for-profit entity and the government's helping you, you ought to pay for it. With regard to TSA Quiet Skies and Tulsi Gabbard situation, I suspect there are going to be other people that were caught up in this thing as well. I'm horrified by the idea that we took a former congresswoman and we're surveilling her and riding on jets with her. There was another story of an air marshal whose wife, might have been at January 6th or something, and now we're, have air marshals following another air marshal or his wife. So I want to hear the whole story of what happened. I want to hear that people have been let go, that they're no longer doing this. If there were abuses of Tulsi Gabbard's liberties, I want to hear from that. But I want repercussions to come from this, and I think you've said something's coming. Please let us know, and let us know how the program, the destruction of civil liberties can be minimized. I frankly probably have trouble with the whole program, but let's see if there's some way. But we need significant reform. If it needs legislation, please come to us with that.